and that can be difficult, but also I think it puts me in a stronger position. You know, when I have that real motivation to want to make this guy's thing work. Okay, so earlier this year we've got him lined up for a 6-rounder. Right, I see myself still now, even though I promote many shows, I've got 24 shows or something got lined up this year, I still see myself more as a manager than as a promoter. So if, for example, if Elliot's preparing for a six, I have no problem my guys fighting on other promoters' shows. You know, if a better opportunity comes up on a Matchroom show, on a Frank Warren show, I work with everybody. I don't sort of know we don't like this guy, so we won't, or try and make more friends with this promoter, so we won't fight. Right? Any promoter says to me, "Oh, you must now." I've had it before. "Oh, I'll do this deal with you, but you've got to make sure now all your guys only fight on my shows." Never do that. I will never ever do that, because that's not how you make the most money. And the boxers don't pay me because they, feel like being charitable to me. They pay me because they know, all right, even after I've taken my cut out, they end up with more money themselves. I've got probably more experience than most of the managers that are out there at making the most money. I've got a paper trail behind me, if you like, of incidents where I have boosted fighters' earnings, and that's what they want me to do. And I just have to go in there and know my stuff and get every penny that I can for them, squeeze it till I know we've got the right deal.
In a quiet time for boxing this month, there's one man next week, David Haye makes his comeback. What do you think of it?
The Haymaker?
Yeah.
I think different things, mixed feelings. I think firstly, David Haye has always been an exciting fighter, apart from obviously the Klitschko fight. That was not exciting. I was at that fight in Germany, it was awful. We all know it was awful. David included, I'm sure, if he watches that, is probably horrified at, people talk about boxers being carried out on their shoe, and obviously sometimes he's fought like that is the way he approached it, but he didn't that night, and that's, out of a career where he's had 20 odd fights, the one that people remember is the one where he really didn't deliver, and then the thing with the toe and Toegate didn't really help things. Then the things with Tyson Fury, I saw the pull-outs of the fights with Tyson Fury. I saw on Facebook like an advert that he put on the thing and was trying to sell the January date, and you just had like an ocean of abusive messages below it. So you can see from that the public opinion of him and the way that they seem to be feeling towards him is not a good one. Then you've got it's the middle of January, which is a hard time to sell. I mean, I certainly wouldn't do a show in the middle of January because I know most working people have not got the money to go out and do that sort of thing. I think that he has to fight. I 100% understand why he doesn't want to attach himself to either Matchroom or to Frank Warren, because that's how you get the most money. He's going to be. You can get 2 or 3 good wins. I would imagine he knocks this guy out in the first round. Jonas rang me the other day, asked him what's my prediction. I said, how can I? And I look at this guy. He looks like he can't win the North East Divs, in the ABAs. He's not on. I don't care if he's got a rating or he hasn't, or where. I haven't even looked. I've seen a YouTube, 3 or 4 YouTube clips that there are of him. And the opponents that he's been facing are shockingly bad. He looks very one-dimensional, very limited himself. I mean, if David Haye has got 10% left of what he had before, he has to get rid of this guy early. I mean, I'm talking 1 round. I can't see it. In fact, it's a bit of a risky fight because for this guy, this is his World Cup final. This is his World Championship fight. This is the one where he's going to put everything in. I'd imagine Demori, and if because of that, he might go fight tooth and nail. It's the first fight David Haye's had for a long while. Imagine it goes like 3, 4, 5 rounds. I think people will look at Haye and go, well, you've had 3 years out and you've come back. You obviously haven't been living the boxing life. I don't believe in you anymore.
Do you think we've seen the? Do you think we've seen the best of David Haye?
I do think actually we probably have seen, and I think probably the best that we saw of him was I was at the fight in Germany when he boxed Valuev. I think that's probably maybe No, Ruiz, I wasn't impressed with the way he boxed against Ruiz. I mean, he looked like he was blowing between the rounds, and I didn't think he boxed so well. His Valuev, obviously, it's a very specific set of tactics that he had because of the size and the sort of way that Valuev is, and those tactics worked. Wasn't really the tactics that you want to see from a world heavyweight title fight. It was a bit sort of run away and score jabs. It's like an amateur tactic, but. Who cares? He won the world title there, and that led to him, earning good money and doing what he did. I think his best days probably are behind him. That said, I think we can still see good. He is still going to be a good fighter. I think he's wise to actually fight someone not too challenging for the first fight.
And he's coming overweight as well, isn't he?
He's coming heavy. You've got to remember, he is now older, and he's had 3 years out. He's 3 years older, as I know myself. When you get to that age, the weight does start to pile up. The thing that I always saw as Haye's strong point was his speed, and him coming in a lot heavier now certainly would have detracted from that. Whether it's something that then he'll go down in weight in future fights as he moves forward. I mean, look, it's an experiment. Better to test it out in a sort of fight that's pretty much irrelevant. That we know, right, he's going to win it, and there's no way he can lose that fight. Yeah. Find out in that kind of a fight, rather than in a fight where we're going to be tested. We don't want to experiment in those fights. We want to know before then, and that's what I think. He would think so. Give him a chance. He'll go and hopefully he blasts this guy out in impressive style. It's on Dave.
What do you make of
that? I think it's clear that he struggled to find TV for it, because they only announced it, I think, like yesterday or the day before yesterday, and we're literally on a week away from the fight. So they must have had a real struggle finding. I mean, ideally, I don't know if there was a way of doing it, but if he could have stayed independent promotionally but fought on a Sky Sports show, that would have boosted his earning potential for a Joshua fight massively, and that would have been the way to go. I think the viewers on Dave might be more or less critical, let's say, because they're probably more, it's a comedy channel. And I think it's a good demographic of viewers that they have for boxing. It is, because it's young men that watch, but they might be less educated than a Sky Sports viewer who's been watching. Sky put on world-class boxing month in, month out, and people are used to viewing that. And if they then go and see, and Haye might not perform 10 out of 10. Let's face it, he's been out a long while. It might take him a couple of fights to get back into sync with where he can be. On Dave, they might not pick up on it so quickly. They might sort of, this is boxing, we've never seen this before, I'll watch it. On Sky, you're talking guys that watched Mayweather last month, that watch, all the other world champions that we can watch on Sky, and then they see someone that's sort of slightly below par, because he's had 3 years out, sort of understanding. He might not, he might go, I hope he does, for him it seems like it. When I've met him, he's always seemed like a nice guy, a good guy. Like I say, the public opinion of him seems to really, really nosedive, and hope for his sake that he can turn it around. Like I say, maybe it won't really grasp the public's imagination to see him fight this guy, but look, Ricky Hatton, his last fight, went in after a long break, went in against a guy who, for me, even at the time I spoke to Ricky, he's a good mate of mine, and his agent, and said, well, why are you fighting this guy? That's potentially going to get beat by a guy that really Ricky will beat if he has. But I think for a guy that's competed at that top level, even say for Hatton at that time, he didn't want to go and fight the Maury's or the lower level guys because it didn't motivate him. And there's another, you don't want the guy to go and not motivated, underperform, and then get beat by a guy that. So they took their chance. I think it makes more sense go and fight someone that's basically got no hope, because it's not just a fight. You're going through 2.5 months in the gym preparing. If you've been out for 3 years, that's invaluable to have that time in the gym.
Of course.
That time preparing. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe not financially. I mean, look, I would imagine. I mean, the O2 hadn't come cheap. I saw they'd taken the James Spate fight off against the I can't remember his name, the guy who comes from Australia, who maybe was a bigger name, but I think the O2, I think you pay like per hour, so they probably saved themselves a big chunk of money. Putting on in January is a big chunk. He has to fight somewhere. If Matchroom or Frank Warren or whoever, whichever promoter he might have approached to get his name out there, may well have said, well, we'll only put you on if you sign a long-term contract with us. I understand why David didn't want to do that, because it doesn't make sense for him to then be held to, right, now you're fighting for that amount. He wants to maintain that independence, and I understand that, because when he fights, say, like a Joshua, or might be Joshua, might not, might be someone else, on pay-per-view, and people are sort of starting to believe in him again, he wants to be in a position where he can negotiate the biggest purse for himself, and if he's tied into a long-term contract, not be able to do that. That's probably why he's taken that route. He'd probably have to lose some money before he makes some, like the O2 in January, even if it's the cheapest month, still going to cost a lot of money. It's a lot of security. It's not a promoter. I look into all these things, and I know that's going to cost a shed load of money. Demori, after all those wins, isn't going to come to the other side of the earth and fight for peanuts to lose his unbeaten record. I'm sure he's going to, unless Demori thinks that he can win the fight. I don't know. I mean, asking me, who I've made my living for years, analysing the pluses and minuses of different boxers, even for bookmakers I work with, I'm open about it. I've got 2 bookmakers that employ me for that purpose. Do I think he's got a chance? Absolutely not. I think he'll get hammered. Hopefully Haye does the business, looks good doing it, might even have another fight on this Dave channel, and if people start to believe in him again, and my worry would be that he spends a fortune on this Dave thing. If he looks anything other than sensational, it might actually detract from the making a Joshua fight or something like, because they say the last thing to go in a fighter is the punch. I believe in that, actually, and Haye can certainly punch before, and so anyone with a Joshua or a Deontay Wilder, whoever you've got, you're fighting this guy, you know that there's a chance. If he hits your guy on the chin, that might be a knockout. Your guy gets beat, and then you've got a problem. You lose a lot of money. So they're not going to be chomping at the bit. If he can market himself really well, which for me to do it, he had to do it with Sky. I mean, hopefully, maybe Sky will wake up to it as well. That's a huge earner for them. They can make Joshua versus Haye, and people are getting behind Haye. That's going to sell much better and will make more money for them. But I think possibly they may have had their fingers burnt. I mean, you see with the Tyson Fury fights that didn't happen. Maybe that has been an influence. I don't know. I'm not talking from an inside point of view. I'm just talking from an outside person looking at it. A little bit confused because we haven't got that many. I mean, the heavyweight division is hotting up for sure, but we haven't got that many pay-per-view heavyweights, and David Haye potentially is one of them. So it would make sense to market him.
Well, it will be an interesting year for David Haye, and an interesting year for yourself and your fighters.
I'm sure.
I mean, thank you for the first video, the vlog back.
For spending the time talking to me.
What's the plans for the rest of the day? Got much planned for the rest of the day? Busy man like yourself?
I've got a dinner date with a very lovely lady, not my wife, Kelly Maloney.
Oh!
We'll see.
maybe something that give us something to talk about next time.
I've spoken to her many times since she came out. I've never actually seen her in the flesh. We just haven't. Both busy people. We spoke a lot, really a lot. But I'm looking forward to seeing her. And
gives us something to talk about next time.
yes, exactly.
Mickey Elliott, take care.